Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's show, Beautifully Bruised in the CPS show. I am your host, Latrika Jones. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This is a special day for so many reasons. Again, I just want to say that I'm so glad you tuned in. I hopefully have some information today that can be helpful to you in some kind of way and definitely be worth your time because I do know there are so many things that you could be doing today and you're just choosing to educate yourself and hopefully learn. I always like to refer to the terminology where you can grow and go, and I think, it's so much that we can learn from each other and help each other. And if you can do that, why not? So I definitely want to say thank you so much for tuning in today, including this is a special holiday. And I hope you are enjoying this holiday. I don't know if you can see my shirt, but it's also in reference to Juneteenth, June 19th, however you want to say it. I do see it as a special day of freedom. And because of that, I wanted to, and again, this segment will be small. And before I get any further, you know me, I always have to give credit and thanks to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Without him, I am nothing. He gives me the strength to keep going, to keep applying, to keep trying, and most importantly, to keep doing. So I must give honor and credit where it's due. It's Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. He got me through my CPS case. He gets me up every morning to be a mother, to be a worker out here doing what he's given me to do, dealing with social work, social services, and the ministry. So I thank God for this platform and this opportunity, turn events, for being someone that is trying to help so many people that's dealing with CPS cases and maybe don't know what to do, they want to do the work, but they might need a little guidance. And obviously, legal advice is always, to me, it was necessary for me to overcome what I went through. So I thank God because knowledge is power. I do believe God had put certain people in positions to be strength for others, to help them learn and be educated. That's why you have doctors. That's why we have attorneys, because they have went to school to get the credentials to know what to do to handle certain situations. And again, I just like to give credit where credit is due. So I'm thankful for the ones that is skilled and crafted in those areas to help people, like doctors and lawyers and whatever your field might be. It's something that's needed and it should be appreciated. So again, with that being said, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. It's a few things that I wanted to share and why I wanted to share my story or why I wrote my book, A Beautifully Bruised, Crushed for Christ. Like I said, I've talked about my story a little bit before. I just want you to know, and I'm going to be reading just only a few pages. And what I'm going to be sharing with you today is actually from what I went through with CPS. Is something that I do believe God told me you need to share that. And at the time, like I mentioned before, I said, God, I don't want to share that. It's just certain things you just was like, no, that's okay. Thank you. I'm going to keep that with me. Some people I've heard say, no, I'm going to take that with me to my grave. So, but you know what? Again, if I'm going to be transparent, if I'm going to be, honest, knowledge is power. Transparency does transform. So if it helped me to get over my encounter with CPS, and prayerfully, it would do the same for you. It's coming from my heart. It's coming from the experience that I witnessed and what I went through, whether I was feeling scared, whether I was feeling uncertain, I was feeling strong about certain days, because I noticed with CPS, it's like a black hole. Sometimes you have no idea what it's going to be like on different times because it changes so often. So I think it was great for me to just journal what I was feeling, what I was going through. Like our last guest shared, that sometimes you just have to, even though you want to see things positive, but sometimes you just have to you have to be present in the moment with what you're feeling with, what you're going through, how it's making you feel. Maya Angelou have always said a person may forget what you say, but they never forget how you made them feel. And I found that to be true. So that is why I decided to, as I was going through my CPS encounter, to start journaling down, what I was feeling and how it made me felt. Hi, M. Young, amen, girlfriend. And I love that picture. She's such a great actress. So yes, thank you so much for tuning in. So again, like I said, I just want to hopefully bring some light and shed some light and some darkness right now. I think it's all needed in some kind of way. So with my book, again, this is something it's a true story. It's what I went through with CPS and what I encountered, and it was things like this. When I started being obedient to what God told me to do, I kid you not, everything that seemed so dark and gloom at the time, it just began to start picking up again. Things beginning to start making sense. I started beginning to see things shift for the better for me being reunified with my son. So, with that being said, like I said, I'm just going to only talk a small segment about it because I know it's a holiday. Thank God it is, Juneteenth, the time to celebrate with your loved ones, again, enjoying freedom. And that is why I wanted to name this segment Monday Motivation, because it deals with freedom. June 19th is definitely a symbol of freedom from bondage, people that's been oppressed, people that's been in slavery. And honestly, my experience with CPS, I felt like I was oppressed. When I no longer could make decisions regarding my child, when I no longer could go and see my child like I once could, I now have other people that have intervened and have made some decisions, have pretty much taken me away out of the equation. Guess what, guys? That is another form of oppression. It's another form of oppression where you're no longer able to be yourself and someone else has come in and taken over and you have to abide by and do what they say do. It's another symbol of slavery to me, honestly. You no longer have control over your actions, over the things that you normally would do. Someone else is telling you what to do, how to do it. It's an old saying my grandmother would use. Sometimes people tell you to jump and you have to ask high. Guess what? That's another form of oppression. So, what better day than today, Juneteenth, June 19th, such a great holiday to celebrate freedom by me not sharing the book, my story of how I overcame CPS and gained my freedom back with my child. So, again, I won't take up much of your time, but before we get any further into learning more about freedom from CPS, there is a trailer that I would like to share to help you understand where I'm coming from.
We have to keep telling our stories and keep standing strong. I am so glad that God got you out of that situation. So I want to, before we go, I want to tell people again the name of your book is Beautifully Bruised, Crushed for Christ by Latrika Jones. Also, I want you to just give a word of encouragement for somebody that's still in it. What would you say to them?
I would say don't feel like you are alone, even if that person is trying to isolate you from your family, your friends. Speak to somebody, talk to somebody, even if it's at your church, if it's whoever you trust. It could be a coworker, a parent, whomever that person might be, but share what you're going through. You're not alone. I know what immediately got me out of the bounds of that abusive, toxic relationship. Like I keep saying, it's not just physical. It could be emotional. It could be mental abuse. Whatever yours may be. Start talking to God. Start telling God, what you're going through. Because you might have a heart to want to get out, but truthfully don't know how to. Mm-hmm. But I promise you, once you put it in your mouth and your heart matches up to what you're saying, God hears and He cares.
Absolutely. And I definitely know that for a fact because I'm a living testimony of that. So, again, God does care. He really does. And believe it or not, many days I would just sometimes be like, God, if you don't help me with this one, if you don't help me get through to this, I don't know how I'm going to make it. But sure and behold, guess what? I made it. I overcame. So they were ordered to return my child back as swiftly and as quickly as possible. And it was no other concerns. There was no objections. And honestly, it was at a point I've never seen a judge. And I'm going to share this with you, and I've never said it to anybody. But at that hearing, that final hearing, I literally saw the judge raise her hands and say, there is nothing I can do from what I've heard. And at that point in time, things were reversed where they were ordered to return my child back. And when a judge surrendered, my God, the judge is the one that makes the final decision, y'all. And when God showed me her hands was raised up to God, you lift your hands up. And she said, I can't touch this, my God. And I knew then, wow, by being obedient to God and not giving up on fighting for my child and doing all the services and having legal wise attorney that knew CPS laws, that was aggressive, that was there for me and my child, like Attorney Vince. my life had changed for the better. Why? Because what the devil meant for evil, God turned it back for the good. He just took me through the test to show that that I could I could trust him actually, even through a time such as that. So again, this is why I wrote the book, Beautifully Bruised. Um, and I'm going to read a segment to me that encouraged me during the time when I was dealing with my case. And I'm only going to read a little bit, but it's basically saying that after this last encounter with CPS, that took my youngest while he was at school, they claimed I abandoned him. Then they changed the story. The stories kept going back and forth with what they were, deciding on what I guess they was going to use for their reason for why they did what they did. Um, I just remembered everything I worked so hard for was now being taken away. I became so weak, nearly lost 30 pounds within 1 week. Due to what all was being done to me, I became isolated and even felt defeated at that time. That's why I say, whatever you're going through emotion wise, be present in that moment. Be honest with how you feel. I think it's good to just be honest with how you feeling, why you feel this way, but don't stay in that place. Observe it, but get up from it. Don't stay in it. Depression is nothing you want to play with. Be honest with how you feel, but do something to pick yourself back up again. Okay? Because your kids are counting on that as well as you need that for yourself, or the strength to get through it all. Okay. So just to go on, it just said, it seems like my life was flashing right before my very eyes. And I don't know if many of you have felt this way dealing with your CPS case. One day I remember asking God, was I going to make it through this? I just said that. I had insomnia, never had insomnia before in my life. Very stressed out from all the troubles I was encountering. I eventually found myself in a hospital bed. I actually was hospitalized one time. So much distress that caused me. I had a dear friend that worked for the system that suggested to me to pursue legal actions against them since I was being denied my rights and my rights were being violated, which was my constitutional rights, and bullied through the process of the system. The torment ended up being a very long battle that I gradually built my strength up through Christ and refused to lose. Okay. I see my children as legacy, and I refuse to give up on my children. My mother always taught me to never give up on your kids. Um, Near her dying day, I see my mom carrying a sack lunch for my older brother, and I never knew that in the next, I want to say, next few days that she passed. That was really her last days on earth, and she didn't even have strength. My mom got less than 100 pounds. Her pants actually fell down off of her body, her frail body, as she was walking to take him his lunch. And when I seen her pants fell, it exposed who her true size was. She had lost so much weight, but she was covering it up by wearing extra layers of clothing. But to me, that spoke volume, because I said, even in her last days on earth, she still was taking her child a sack lunch. That's the love that she had for her children. And that's the same love she put in me. I'm sorry, I'm almost about to cry, but it's the same love that she installed in me, to never give up on your children, even to your dying days on earth. So, um, but I just want to say, with that, yeah, mom always taught me to never give up on my kids. Near her dying day, she carried my brother's sack lunch for work with all with the frailness in her body. Sadly, cancer had returned to my mom for the third time, and I'm still admired how she found the strength in her body to still meet her son with the sack lunch, all while she was feeling so ill and could hardly walk. Again, that showed me the dedication of how we love our children and are willing to go to the end of the earth to support them. I am no different, no matter what others may say. I lay my life down for my children in order for them to have a better life, that they may fulfill their God given purpose. And then after this segment, I'm sorry, it goes on to show that I was randomly ordered drug tests at any given time. I never had a history of drugs, never done drugs in my life, but my attorney told me at the time that they're doing anything they can to use against you. And, I didn't have to do the drug test, but I was advised by my attorney to do the drug test. But now, as I'm hearing some of these stories on Attorney Ben's platform, that some of the drug tests could be false positives. So I'm not going to tell you to take it unless you're advised by your attorney, because I've also heard a guest that share, or I spoke to someone that shared with me that she had never done drug tests before neither, but some kind of way her tested ended up dirty and they removed her kids. So again, that's why I'm only a mother, and I won't say only a mother. I'm a mother that we wear many hats, and so I can't give you advice on what to do. Please be persuaded by your own mind and hopefully be led by wise counsel to tell you how you should handle drug tests. Um, and I just want to say this too. I can recall a doctor telling me she couldn't believe that I never turned to drugs for a release. Drugs, or alcohol, especially with all life's pain I endured. I politely told her I turned to God. Um, they can take the earthly stuff away, but they couldn't take away my faith in God, and which was deeply embedded deep down in my soul. Sorry, guys. My counselor released me from ongoing counseling because she never saw the reason why they wanted to continue. They would always tell her to continue the counseling. But when my counselor reached out to them, I've covered everything that you had concerns about. So what else is it that you would like for her to go over? Because I see that she don't need any more counseling, but they still said, no, let her continue the counseling. And they would never respond back. And thank God she was another ram in a bush for me, because she shared with me, are you ready to be released? I said, yes. And she said that this is what you need to do. I am releasing you, and you go in that courtroom. Basically, she was saying, show up for you, and most importantly, for your kids. I am not going to order you a $10,000 brain test because I don't see fit for that. So for someone to go against somebody that is obviously trying to do whatever they can to prolong the oppression, to me spoke volume. That's why I say everybody that worked for CPS are not bad people. Some people are good people. If it wasn't for that counselor that CPS hired that said, I don't see what they're saying, and I don't see the point of prolonging your CPS case. I don't see the point of ordering a $10,000 brain test. I don't see it. Thank God she had integrity and was willing to be truthful and honest and stand up for what's right and refuse the continuation of CPS services with counseling. Thank God she had integrity. Because I do know with CPS, it's on a time clock. After a certain period of time, I don't know if it's 12 months or longer, they can keep your kids. But she wouldn't allow that time clock to continue on her watch. She ended my counseling because she didn't see anything else that was, again, made sense to continue. So, again, I just say thank God for integrity. With that counselor, I never forget her ever in life. She actually gave me advice what to do, how to handle my case, that point moving forward, because I think she knew at this point in time, this was very personal and things were being done in a way they shouldn't have been done. And that's why she pulled out of it and no longer would put her credentials and her name on the line. And I will never forget her for helping me during such a time as dealing with CPS. So again, I just went on to say that this obviously seemed personal with all they were trying to do. Brighter Bridges said we need more like her. Oh my God, we do. I know she moved to Houston. I think her and her husband was building a home. But I assure you that she gave me advice to tell me what to do when I went in that courtroom. And when she told me, are you ready to be released? Again, it was bondage I felt I was in because I was fighting a big giant that I didn't know how to fight. I just knew to do what I was told to do from my attorney. And most important, I kept my faith in God because I knew he saw what I was going through. And I do again see it as a form of oppression. And if somebody is telling the government wants to hire a $10,000 test, that's serious to me. And she just said, you're being released. And this is what you should do. And again, I don't disclose anyone information, for privacy and, legal wise, but she was my ram in the bush.
if that counselor didn't stand up for me, it's no telling what could have happened. So I thank God for her. Um, so yes, so sorry guys, but this is making me think back to what I honestly went through, because the book is about surviving CPS, dealing with surviving domestic violence, any type of abuse. It's different forms of abuse, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, verbal, spiritual. This book taps in on a lot of those encounters, that, what I went through, what God told me to do to go through it, and how I survived and overcame. So, but yeah, to piggyback on that, afterwards, like I said, I'm reading from the book, chapter 4. This seemed personal with all they were trying to do. There wasn't any reason to extend my services, but yet they did it anyway. Why not being able to explain why? Uh, I do believe my son was placed back in danger because he was placed back in a mental institution where adults were. Um, uh, the facility was so bad, actually, that it was on the news that they had to close it down because they were, I shared this before, that they were putting the patients on medicine more than what it should have been dosage wise. And so they got, that the facility had to be shut down. So again, like I just said, I reiterated that I felt like my son was placed in danger because of that facility, and obviously was in danger because they were forced to shut down the facility that he was placed in, and it was a mental facility, and he was only 4 years old. And at the time, it showed that kids had to be at least 5 because it was a place for teenagers and adults to be in. And even they, like I said, the whole facility was shut down due to how it was being mismanaged. When they were called out for it, I'm going back to CPS. They began to change the beat of their drum and began to backpedal and release prior allegations that they was trying to use against me. One day I called them to follow up on some information, and I immediately found out about my son. It's going into more of that information in detail, and it expressed more in detail of what I went through, what I felt along with that. Like I said, my constitutional rights were, I felt like I was being bullied through the system. Yeah. So I just wanted to end this. This is going to be the last thing I'm going to share. Like I say, this is going to be a smaller segment. I just want to read some things from my book that I personally went through with CPS. And I'm going to end it right here. There we go. Okay, there we go. I'm going to end it with this paragraph. You get time. I think it's something that, if you know somebody that's dealing with CPS and you want to encourage them or give them something personally that somebody have also been through it, by the grace and mercy of God, they overcame it, and they stored it, they journaled along, because they might see some things similar that they're going through, and they can learn from some of the things and be encouraged or inspired to know that this read is also something that helped them to get through what they were going through. I encourage anyone to journal, because it is, to me, it's it's a way to vent. It's a way to release what you're feeling, and to, just to get it out of your system. And you can't have no one to talk to about it like a counselor. By writing and journaling, it's another way, a form of healing to me, because you're still releasing what you're feeling and what you're going through, and getting it out of your system. So I'm going to I'm going to stop at this paragraph, saying that God once again worked it out for my good. Once I picked my child up, I couldn't stop hugging him. It was no concern in my mind that God delivered us from this evil. It was a test to show how God can sustain us, even while we go through the storms of life. As long as we continue to trust and keep the faith in him, he will always make a way. And And I just wanted to share too that once the judge, like I said earlier, near the final hearing, all the allegations that CPS was trying to do, the judge literally raised her hands up and said, "I can't touch this." The things that they were trying to do, by the grace and mercy of God, since I had a legal attorney that had a wise counsel, she presented some information in the case I had no idea about. CPS never shared it with me. But once she provided that information, again, the judge raised her hands and said, "I can't touch this." My God. That's how important it is to me, to have legal counsel, because without that information, that dialogue she shared, I would have never known. I would have never known. And because of that dialogue shared, CPS had to immediately remove what they were trying to do. They really did backpedal. Actually, since they began to start trying to be nice to me afterwards, um, along with, like I say, things that they were trying to do. Once my attorney presented that substantial evidence, they really had to, as the judge lifted her hands, I noticed CPS began to almost sit, like kind of look back with amazement. And everything they were trying at that point, they had to stop doing. Not only that, they were ordered at that point. It was showing that, the child, no longer could be up under their provision. He was ordered to be returned back. And I hope that's an example for you how important wise legal counsel is, because they can have access to information that we don't have, and they know how to present things in a way that we don't. I'm no attorney, but I am a mother that loves my children, and that's a fighter, and that's willing to do whatever it takes to get things back to where they need to be. And I have integrity. And most importantly, I'm a believer. Because of my trust in God, even through something it was uncertain, I never gave up. I kept the faith, and I overcame each and every obstacle that CPS tried to do against me. So again, that's my story. I pray that your story will be the same. Everything that has been done to you, or is trying to be done, that you will get what you need. Read up on what you need to know. Look for a wise attorney, like Attorney Vance. Even if you can't get Attorney Vance, wherever you might be located, look and see if there's something you can go to for wise counsel. Because again, knowledge is power. And the more you know, the better it is dealing with this type of situation. So, I just want to share that. I think that is so important. Another reason why I say freedom is important, because again, this is June 19th, that when slaves were freed. And we all know that freedom is a beautiful thing, especially if you've been a victim to CPS, and have witnessed any kind of oppression from anyone or anything. It makes you value your freedom, liberty, that you can come and go as you please. You can go in a room and hug your child. You can spend time with your child. You can, just hug on them, love on your child. Sometimes even to this day, I never shared everything I went through with my child. But do you know my child to this day, nearly God, almost 10 years later, say, "Mama, thank you for what you've done for me." He tells me that. And I'd be amazed. I'm like, he don't even know the sacrifice, all I've endured. But he tells me, "Mama, thank you for loving me, and thank you for not giving up on me." So your children know the sacrifice. Everything you're doing for your child won't be in vain. So please don't give up. And with that being said, I like to share a little bit more about freedom, and what it really means. This holiday is celebrated on June 19th. It is to commemorate the emancipation of enslaved people in the U.S., the United States. The holiday was first celebrated in Texas, where on that date in 1865, in the aftermath of the Civil War, enslaved people were declared free under the terms of the 1862 Emancipation Proclamation. I have heard that I think Texas, which is where I'm located, actually some of the slaves were released later than what they should have been. But I wanted to share with you what freedom really means. And again, I think it's so relevant to someone that's dealing with CPS because, again, with me, when I personally went through that encounter, I felt like I was in bondage. When people are now making decisions over me and my children, I'm oppressed and I have to go by what they say, whether I agree with it or not, whether it's actually factual or not. You still have to abide by it. You still have to go with what they say. And I do know once everything was said and done, when the judge ordered or demanded them to release my child back, that I felt I was no longer oppressed. I felt the chains were released from me and I was freed from this oppression. So, again, fight for your children. Don't you ever give up. I hope that this platform is so many different shows that you'll tune in. It's being aired 24/7. Something will touch you, something will make you think, something will make you grow and go and keep fighting for your children. They're worth the sacrifice. They are your legacy. They deserve your fight. And trust me, your doing will not go unseen. Okay. So don't give up. Even if you're going through something, take on what you're feeling. I think it's good to be honest with what you're feeling, but just don't remain there. If it's making you feel sad or mad or bad, do whatever it takes to cheer yourself up, to get back up again. Talk to God, cry out to God. I did, and I still continue to do because He can give you the strength that nobody can. Okay. So you need that during such a time dealing with these type of encounters with CPS. I do know that for a fact. I also want to mention, thank you. I've actually received some notices of people wanting me to speak at their events dealing with CPS or whatever the case may be. I don't mind. You can definitely reach me on my email. It is my name, Latreka, Latreka S Journey @gmail.com. Again, that's my name, Latreka S as in sunshine, the word journey spelled out, JOURNEY @gmail.com, or reach the show. I don't mind whatever I can do to help you and support you within reasonable, in a reasonable way. I will be more than glad to do so. And again, thank you for those offers. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot to me. With that being said, that is going to wrap up our show today. This is a holiday for many, so I hope you indulge in this time, see what it really means, the significance of it, the beauty of it, and don't take it for granted. Enjoy this day, get in some self-care. If you're off work today or if you're at work, still get in some self-care. You deserve it. If people are dealing with CPS and you're a family or friend, give them support. They need it. They really need it this time. And if it's you, you need it. You need the support. Love on yourself. Stay encouraged. Stay inspired. Keep God first, most importantly, because that is what helped me get through my case, is the strength of God. And I kept a wise attorney. I had an attorney that led me to the direction. And before I knew it, it was all over with. My son, I was back reunited with my child because of it. But that is all I have for today. Don't never, ever give up. I want to say have a great day. Enjoy this holiday, June 19th, because many people, it took a lot of sacrifice to get to this day, but thank God we're here. So don't take it for granted. Keep God first. Don't never give up on your kids, and have a great remainder of your day.